I'm here because you called. I'm here because I am part of your history.
It's such a wonderful film, and I want to start with Susanne because I know you previously directed, Sing Your Song, which focused on his incredible life and his retirement from entertainment. Did you always know that there would be a companion piece to that film, and that it would, really serve as this testament to his activism and stand the test of time, so that future generations can understand this history?
Well, when I finished Sing Your Song, I was frustrated at the end because I didn't have this part of the story. I had the archival part of his life. And I didn't know that I was really going to embark on a film about him, the second part. But Harry invited me to come and share an office with him. He was moving into a new office space, and as I sat there in his office and just witnessed so much of the activism that was going on, I thought, I have to capture this. And that was really the genesis of this film, is just witnessing what Harry was doing in the last chapter of his life.
Jesse, there's always been this conversation about mixing art and politics, and I know Mr. B used to say artists are the gatekeepers of truth. I would think it would be very difficult as an artist not to be political. At the same time, you talk about the cost to your career. Have you ever hesitated?
I haven't, but that has little, or if anything, to do with everybody else. We all come to, if we're talking about acting, we all come to this from so many different walks of life and forms of conditioning and backgrounds and brackets, etc., and hold it with different levels of grip strength. Some people that's been their lifelong dream, and nothing will stop them from just trying to make it. Some people just want to act, or they came to it for different reasons. So I never try to project or instill my needs, wants, or sense of personal responsibility onto others. I don't think that artists, just because you are a great actor or you can dunk a basketball, you have more responsibility to your community than a teacher or a plumber. I think that we're all in this journey together. It is a collective experience, so I don't think there's an undue burden, but it would be a damn shame to squander it. Yeah. Is how I kind of view it. So I try to walk that line with having expectation, living a life of purpose, being available and an example to others, but remaining a student at all times. I learned so much from these guys and everybody constantly at all times, and but I don't pressure others or feel that that's necessarily fair. Just don't make it worse.
Phillip, Dream Defenders was founded after the murder of Trayvon Martin. And what was it like to get that call and know that Harry Belafonte was offering his support?
Well, I'm going to do my best to make this as brief as possible. I would not have met Mr. B had it not been for Carmen. So very quickly, we were in New York trying to raise money, for the organization. And a co-founder of our organization, Nalini Stamp, who also was a co-founder of Occupy Wall Street, had said, let's go to SEIU. I want y'all to meet my femtor. I didn't even know that was a word. And her name is Carmen. So we say, okay, whatever. We're in New York. Let's go. And we go to the office. And we're showing them a video of a recent action that we had done, and I'm speaking on the video, and Mr. Belafonte walks in. And Mr. B has the incredible gift of taking all the air out of the room and giving all the air back at the same time. You just feel the room warp. And he came in and we were like, oh, that's him, And I just remember he came out and we were watching a video, and I happened to be speaking at the time, and I'm just like, he's heard the greatest orators ever in history. Please just don't say anything stupid on this video. I don't remember what I said. And he sat and he looked intently, and he just sat and he watched. And I don't know how long he had intended on being in the office that day, but he stayed for hours talking to us. And this is another attribute that I hope you all see and recall of him. He was generous with his time and with his attention. When he looked at you, you knew and felt that you were the recipient of his undivided attention. And that was our first meeting with him. And knowing that he was in your corner, that he saw you as intelligent, even though we felt woefully insufficient for the moment, was a great gift and continued to be. So a year later, when he says he wants to come to the Capitol, we're overjoyed, but we also kind of expected it, because what else would Mr. B do than be there on the front lines with us? And so we were very, very grateful, and then also we expected to be able to be in his presence, because that's who he is, that's what he was, and that's what he still represents to so many of us.
I just understood femtor. It's mentor, but femme. I was
Yes,
thinking,
it
did
is.
he tour you around? I
Yes.
was like trying to put that together.
We continue to educate here.
I'm
Yes.
going to steal that. Carmen, as president and CEO of Gathering for Justice, you worked so closely with Mr. B. I know we all know that he's an icon, he's a humanitarian, but what was he sort of like as a person you worked side by side with, day after day?
I think I was saying this earlier to someone, is Mr. B was really funny, and but he was also very critical. He had very high expectations of you. He raised the bar. And like Phillip said, he would stare into your soul, and he kind of like would analyze you, and then his response was always through a historical lens. And you could ask a question of the current moment, but he would take you back to 1937 or 1951, and there was always a story. There were always people. I learned a lot about Eleanor Roosevelt, who was one of his favorite people, and I will share a very short story. But Eleanor Roosevelt and Mr. Belafonte were really good friends, and they commissioned an airplane from Kenya with students, and they happened to have Barack Obama Sr. on that plane. And so everything was always interconnected, and it was always important to understand how we got here. But there was a lot of moments of joy. We danced on Friday. There were long days in the office. He loved being in the office. Maybe when he got older, he wasn't there often, but up until the Women's March, he was there all the time, late. But we would dance. I would put on hip hop, and sometimes it was ratchet, and he would make sounds with his mouth and his hands, and it was the sounds of Africa, and it was an intercultural exchange. It was an intergenerational exchange. When it was just us in the office, it was myself, Susanne, and an assistant, and he would make peanut butter and jelly sandwiches. But he really leveled things out. And I would say, you weren't intimidated when you would walk into the office and King III would be in the office, or some major celebrity, Whoopi, because he always made you feel like you were important as well, and always brought you into the conversation. So I was emotional earlier because I was like, damn, I miss him. I really need his guidance. And I really encourage all of you to really understand that he talked about there's a lane for all of you in this movement. Whatever gift you have, bring that to the cause. And so I really encourage that for folks, because Mr. Belafonte didn't have a uniqueness to him outside of the fact that he was committed.
Mm-hmm. I'm curious for all of you, is there ever a point, because you're working side by side with him, he becomes your mentor, he becomes your friend, do you ever get over the fact some days that this is Harry Belafonte, and he's just a friend of yours, or are you always kind of like, oh my God? But it sounds like he was really good at sort of deflating that.
I would say that daily, at some point, you go, I can't believe that this is Harry Belafonte.
Yeah.
We're sharing this space with him.
Yeah.
But I think the most important gift that Harry has given us is really this understanding that we have to find our common humanity. We have to help everyone find our common humanity, and that we just should never stop. Be engaged. And Harry also encouraged us to drink a little rum every day. So that at the end of the day, he liked Mount Gay rum, which he insisted was the best. It's very harsh. It's very rough. and we all learned to, kind of take a sip and put it down.
I'm blessed. and incredibly grateful. There's so much that's captured here and so much that's not captured that he imparted into each and every one of us. That historical context we live in an era with so much content, but no context, no way to understand how we got to where we are. This is a person who has sat with great leaders and still finds time to sit with you. So, you know, as humble as you may want to be, you have to think, oh, I must be somebody. I must be of note. And so, yeah, there are many times where you would be with him for 2 hours and you feel like, yeah, he's one of the guys. And then he'd say, so I was with Nelson Mandela. And you'd be like, oh, okay, yeah, you're not regular. This is not normal at all. So
Every time I said I worked for Harry Belafonte, some grandmother was like, I'm in love with Harry Belafonte. And but I would have to really educate the young people about who he was and his contributions to the civil rights movement, the apartheid movement. Because he had accomplished so much, he did not think that we could never accomplish something greater. So there was always kind of like, how do we do it bigger? How are we intentional? How do we bring others in? He always talked about meet people where they're at and champion them to your cause and to keep your eyes on the prize. And I think that we could all play a small part in keeping his legacy alive through the work that we continue to do.
There's a whole range of people that can contribute, kind of speaking to his legacy, as these guys have already said. There's so many ways you can get in. There's so many ways you can fit in and be productive and fulfill yourself and others and contribute to a movement of any kind. And I think that in his honor, to bestow that acknowledgement onto a range of people that have come to this place from different paths at different times in their life with different things to offer is exactly an extension of his legacy. So I was honored to be in the room to witness it. I kind of forget that I was also a part of it in that way.
I want to again thank you again for such a beautiful movie.
Thank you, Susanne.
Yes, thank you. Thank you for
thank
being
you,
a great audience.
Thank you all for being here.